والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Welcome everybody to the Syed Nothing But Facts live stream on a day in which is very sunny, warm almost, and you don't know where the weather's going here in the great state of New Jersey, which was, you realize, understand, there would not be United States of America if it were not for the heroics of the people of New Jersey to save the Revolutionary War and turn it. It wasn't the war that won the battle, but it was the war. It was the battle that won the war. It was the battle that saved the war from being totally lost, and that's the famous Battle of Trenton, led by good old George Washington. But anyway, we're neither here nor there, as some people say. We have some very upsetting news, which is the poor guy. They ruined this guy's life completely. His name is Adnan Syed. You may remember him from the famous serial podcast about maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago that took the world by storm. Everyone in the English-speaking world, even in Australia, in England, were listening to this episode after episode of an investigative journalism type of thing in which a woman traced, she did a really great job at explaining the case, hunting down witnesses, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And ultimately, in the year 2000, he was convicted of a murder. The evidence, his lawyer was a complete fail. No discussion on that. Many, many years later, after this podcast got him a lot of attention to his case, they vacated his sentence. They sent him home, and he was home. He was happy. He was back home. And suddenly now, they're taking it back. Let's listen to it. A Baltimore judge could rule that he could remain free or not. Okay, let's see. Let's make sure we got the date right. Yes, this is today's article. The Baltimore Circuit Judge Jennifer Schiffer is slated to hear arguments Wednesday over Syed's sentence after the serial podcast subject requested in December to have it reduced under the Juvenile Restoration Act. A ruling in Syed's favor could end the looming uncertainty over whether Syed, 43, will go back behind bars for his first-degree murder conviction, stemming from the 1999 death of, she was murder of Hae-Min Lee. By the way, there was a person that they have their eyes on, that they think it's him, right? And that's usually how you vacate sentences. Right. You vacate sentences by finding the person who actually did it. All right. It's been a decades-long saga. He may or may not serve more time. He's separately seeking to clear his name. It was briefly vacated, but then reinstated, here's the thing, by the Maryland Supreme Court and Baltimore's new state attorney, Ivan Bates. He has not taken a position whether the conviction should be vacated again or not. So they vacated it, then they reinstated it. A judge has set February 28th as a deadline, 2 days after the hearing on reducing his sentence, for prosecutors to state their decision. It's unclear what Bates' office will say later in the week, but the state's attorney does agree that Syed shouldn't serve any more time in prison, so that's good, which means that Wednesday's hearing won't feature a traditional argument between prosecutor and defense. Instead, Lee's family is expected to be the main opposition to Syed being free. So they're clearly not facing facts here. I would appeal to Lee's family, don't get emotionally attached to Syed as your murderer of your daughter. Face facts. It's not going to make you feel any better just that someone's behind bars. That's not going to, you need the right person behind bars. In a court filing last week, Lee's family asked Schiffer to delay ruling on Syed's sentence. The thing is, you can hold a belief for 20 years, turn out to be wrong. They held the belief that Syed killed their daughter for 20 years. The facts don't show up, don't add up. Face the facts, not your emotions. All right. Syed hasn't been behind bars since 2022, but with his conviction again hanging over his head, he faces the risk of returning to prison. Syed was allowed to walk out through the courthouse steps after September 22nd, 2022 hearing, in which Baltimore judge vacated his conviction. He now works at Georgetown University's Prison and Justice Initiative, and he attends religious services at ISB, Islamic Society of Baltimore, and is a valued member of the community. He splits his time between his mother's home in Maryland and his wife's out-of-state home, his attorneys wrote. But Syed's judgment of guilt was ultimately reinstated last year after the Maryland Supreme Court sided with Lee's family attorney, who had argued that Lee was not properly afforded the right as a crime victim's representative to participate. So that is not a statement of guilt, it's a statement of procedure, it sounds like to me. The High Court's ruling set the clock on Syed's case before September 2022, which happened in the final months of the former state Maryland Mosby's administration attorney. With Bates in office now, prosecutors have to decide what to do about the pending motion to vacate his conviction. And they're going to start this on Friday. So you understand what's happening here? Is basically it was vacated. Then they say, hold on, you guys didn't follow procedure. You didn't listen to us. So it was reinstated. Right? You all remember that case, right? Crazy. Syed's convictions are slightly more complicated and slated to be handled separately from the sentence reduction. He's asking the judge on Wednesday to reduce his sentence to time served. If Bates' administration decides to vacate the convictions and not try Syed again, and the judge accepts that, Syed wouldn't have to worry about going back to jail. But it's unclear what prosecutors will say on Friday when they are due in court again to state their decision. So we're going to wait on Friday afternoon. We'll hear the results. Like, it's such a traumatic and infuriating case. Bates said on 2022 campaign trail that Syed's conviction should be undone, though he's insisted since the state Supreme Court ordered a redo of the vacature hearing that prosecutors need to further evaluate the case for underlying evidence. Isn't there a double jeopardy here? You can't charge someone for the same crime twice. Maybe a lawyer on the stream here in the chat could tell us, how is this not double jeopardy? A spokesperson for the state's attorney's office declined to comment last Friday when asked if Bates had made a decision. Lee's family fully anticipates that the state will not renew the vacature motion, which will vacate the sentencing. Attorney David Sanford wrote in last week's filing, as there has never been and likely will never be newly discovered evidence, right, or information, the required bar needed for the prosecutors to move to vacate a conviction. Evidence that supports the defendant's innocence is known as Brady material, and prosecutors must disclose any such information to the defense before trial. Under Mosby's administration, prosecutors' motion to vacate his conviction hinged on information from a handwritten note that they claimed indicated that there was an alternate suspect. See what I told you before? They get vacated by there being an alternate suspect. All right, we're not going to read the rest of the article. You get the point here, and it's something that's infuriated everybody, because if you listen to the podcast, which is not the final say, but when you listen to the podcast, you realize this whole case is a scam. The whole thing is a sham, and the defense attorney was so bad. She's dead now, but she was so bad she should be sued. We're going to Umrah. A shift in topic. We should make dua for Syed. May Allah Ta'ala give him justice. Really, justice is him suing the state for billions and billions of dollars. $1 billion for every year lost. No, I'm serious. $1 billion. Yeah, you say $1 billion, they're going to give you something less than that, but all right, let's go. Yeah, we have, mashallah, we have our two organizers of the Umrah were going on. Because of the demands on the Umrah, these guys had to work and scramble at the insistence and demands of the people, of you, the viewers, to open up a few more spots. Yesterday, we opened up 10 spots. now that number is dwindling, and we're going to see if there's even any spots left for people to join us. And Omar, you're going to put the link for this to sign up for this Umrah. And we're going to talk about what we're going to do on this Umrah. All right, introducing Rayyan and Ammar. Tafaddalu. Bismillah. All right, gentlemen, talk to us. What is the status of our Umrah?
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam rahmatullah.
I think I need to do one of your style intros. Assalamu alaikum. I'm joining from the blessed city of Medina.
MashaAllah.
Air is a little brisk, but alhamdulillah, we're having a great time. Rayyan, where are you joining in from? The great state of
joining us from the Dallas Sharif.
MashaAllah.
The weather is in the 70s right now. It was in the 30s just a couple of days ago. So alhamdulillah, we're glad for the good weather.
MashaAllah, very good, very good. Those are this time of year is the only place I would ever go to Dallas. From, I would say October, probably to April, you'll be good.
Inshallah, as we hope for.
All right, what's your status?
Weather? Yeah, no, inshallah, we're looking at some great weather during this Umrah trip. This Ramadan, we'll be we're gonna come in on the 15th till the 23rd.
Yeah.
And so we're going to be spending part of our trip in the last 10 nights in Mecca, inshallah. We're going to be doing our Umrah as well in the last 10 nights. So a lot of big action, big things going on there, right?
Yeah, so we have a jam-packed trip ready. Inshallah, just to go over the itinerary real quick. Everybody gets to Medina on the 15th. Between the 15th and the 19th, we'll be spending in Medina. During those 4 nights and 4 days in Medina, just to kind of go over a quick overview of what's happening. Obviously, we'll be going to the Riyal al-Jannah. We'll be going and visiting the Prophet ﷺ as well. We'll be going to Jannat al-Baqi. We'll be visiting Mount Uhud. And then there's a number of other spots on our ziyarah that we'll be visiting. Now, for the folks who've already been here 1,001 times, mashallah, you're more than welcome to skip out on any number of activities you want. You can join us. You can do your own thing. Again, it's Ramadan time. We know that you may prefer to be in the masjid than go on a ziyarah. But again, we have a jam-packed schedule for everybody. So whoever wants to join us can. Whoever wants to do their own thing is more than welcome to. On the 19th morning, we leave for Mecca, and we plan to make Umrah after Taraweeh. The reason for that is we have some folks on our group who cannot accommodate to fast during while they're fasting. So they can't accommodate to make Umrah while they're fasting, excuse me. So we're going to be making our Umrah after Taraweeh, and then we'll be going for Suhur and then starting our fast the next day. And then we have a number of ziyarahs also planned out in Mecca. We'll be visiting some scholars in both areas. Sheikh Nuh will be with us the whole time. Dr. Shadee will be joining us for the days on Medina, and then he'll be making Umrah, and then he'll be leaving on the 20th. In regards to kind of accommodations and everything, so this trip is kind of a really unique trip where we were able to, alhamdulillah, get everybody in a hotel that is closest to both the Haramain, right? So if anybody's been there, we'll be staying in the Taiba Hotel in Medina, which is the first hotel south of the masjid. So if you're looking at the Prophet's old masjid, that's on the north side. Then the masjid's a square. So on the back end of the square, the south side, the first hotel is Taiba Hotel. And for any of the married folks, your wives have for sure been to Taiba shopping mall, and so it's right above that mall. And then for Medina. For Mecca, we'll be staying in the Jabal Amr Marriott, which is right behind the clock tower. So last year in Ramadan, alhamdulillah, I had the opportunity to go make Umrah. And during the last 10 nights in Mecca, if you're not in the Jabal Amr area or you're not in the clock tower area, the people who are managing the facilities there block off a lot of the roads. So you have to take these roundabouts and you have to go through the detours that take half an hour, 45-minute walk sometimes. So with the Jabal Amr Marriott, you're about a 7 to 10-minute walk in the most extreme of rush hours. I mean, if you're going for Fajr or you're going for Maghrib or you're going for Taraweeh, it is like jam-packed. We had close to 2.7 million people last year on the 27th night, which is close to Hajj, if not beating Hajj. This is just in Ramadan. So you can imagine how crowded it is trying to get in the haram, making sure you can pray. And it's also very kind of a spiritual experience, like being in that area in Ramadan, having made Umrah, and it's going to be one of those things where you're going to have the opportunity to spend a lot of time with Dr. Shadee, with Sheikh Noah, be able to ask him any questions, be able to learn from them, be able to hear stories from them, and the stories that they've heard from their shuyukh and other ulama. So all in all, it's a very unique experience that hasn't been done before. So we're super excited for everybody who has joined and inshallah who will join. It's going to be a very unique experience in the sense that apart from it being a normal Umrah and going to Medina and Mecca in Ramadan, which it itself is, the most amazing experience after Hajj that you could do, you're doing it with, scholars who, that you listen to all the time. If you're tuning in on NBF every week, you're going to be able to, sit every single day. We're going to have halaqas after Fajr and before Maghrib every single day. When we're at Uhud, we're going to spend time, we're going to have food, we're going to break bread together, and then same thing we're going to go Arafah in Mecca. We're going to do the same thing over there. So it's
going to be amazing. What you're saying is amazing. Umrah and Ramadan, there's nothing else like it, really. It's Hajj is the only thing that can be better than that is Hajj. And where are you seeing the most of our people coming in from? Are they coming from the UK or from America?
Yeah, so the UK is definitely beating the US folks. Don't know if this is because of the people who tune in, or if people are just more available during that time. I do want to obviously mention the obvious here, which is that we specifically made the dates the 15th to the 23rd because that is spring break. I know for every state it differs from day to day and week to week, but for majority of the school districts in the US, it's 15th to the 23rd. If you can't join for the full trip, you're more than welcome to do a partial trip, and you can email us, and Omar can drop the email in the chat here, and you guys can give us an email, and we can discuss all that stuff. But we're looking to basically create an experience for everybody. I'll let Omar and Dr. Shadee talk about this a little bit more, but we're looking to create a spiritual experience, but also an experience that when you go back, you can build off that, Ramadan steps. So every Ramadan you want to get better. We want to make sure that this Ramadan you're taking 2 steps instead of 1.
Hey, listen, who knows? This could be someone's last Ramadan at all.
Yes.
Right? I mean, why would we even make an assumption about next Ramadan? You don't even know if you're going to make this Ramadan start Saturday, Friday night, Saturday maybe, right?
Inshallah, we all can even make this trip, first of all, right? So first
that's the thing.
We got Ramadan. We
got to live with that urgency.
Yes.
You got to live with that urgency. So they're amazing that the majority of attendees are coming out of the UK.
Yeah. We have some people from Morocco. We have some folks who are wanting to come from all over Europe. We have some folks from America. Obviously, we have some folks from Canada. So it's a global phenomenon.
Very interesting. Very excited to meet all of these people and attendees. Most of them probably through Nothing But Facts, since this is the main place where we told people about it. And then we got many messages, and a lot of these messages asked about Umrah. And so the guys were generous enough to open up, as of yesterday, 10 more spots, probably 3 or 4 left spots. So if you want your spot, you need to get it today because it's going to be gone by tomorrow. And you got to make your decision quick. It's going to be gone by tomorrow. And the reason we're doing this is because people say, why are you surprising us? All of us, you tell us, then it's closed and the seats are taken. What can I do? You are slow. You are slow in making a decision. So we're telling you now that you probably have less than 24 hours to make your decision and hop on. And inshallah ta'ala, we'll be able to accommodate you. But go to the website here it's a bit.ly/
Our website is Burak Travel. You can also go to buraktravel.co, or you can go to our bit.ly link.
So buraktravel.co is easier than bit.ly.
Yeah, it is, honest. Yeah.
It's pinned already. Burak Travel. It's pinned. Yeah, buraktravel.co. And Burak is spelled the easy way. Buraq travel.co. Okay, correct. Very, very good. Very nice website too. buraktravel.co.
But join us on this Ramadan on that middle button in the middle of the page, and then they'll take you to our info page for our Umrah 2025 trip. Yeah. I think the big thing about these trips is the sahaba that you get, in like the past trips that we've had, Dr. Shadee, when we went together what was that? That was in 22 when Habib Kadhim was there, and they had all the majalis. There was so much khair that comes from those Umrah trips.
So
I can
much.
speak specifically, after it was basically through that Umrah trip that I ended up getting married somehow 2 years later.
Amazing.
But on top of that, yeah, no, you get to spend time. One big thing that we want to do is give people one-on-one time with you. So for all those that are listening and watching, we're going to be setting up, time for one-on-one, like just meeting, sitting with Dr. Shadee, sitting with Sheikh Noah, asking them questions, giving you that time for personal connection. But it's also just going around, spending time on the bus together during the ziyarats, doing it with the inshad that we have, with the singing of qasaid that we do. This sort of stuff brings an ambiance and creates unforgettable memories. And that's really what we're here to create, is something that you're going to look back on 10 years later and you'll be like, I'm really glad I didn't miss that trip. That's what this trip will be.
Ryan, you coming?
Yeah, inshallah. I'll be. One thing I do want to mention as well is, so I used to live in Saudi when I was younger, and obviously when you live there, Umrah's, it's not that hard to make. And the first time I ever made Umrah with a quote unquote, a scholar, and not like my family or something like that, was with Sheikh Khalil last year. He took a group from Harvard, and the experience is infinitely different. I mean, for everybody here who's been there, Umrah, it's like, I don't need to pay. I'm gonna find finesses to get here and get there, and I'm gonna go make all my Umrah and come back. You're missing out on a whole nother level of experience. It's like, if you go watch sports games, it's like sitting courtside versus sitting in the nosebleeds. I mean, you can't even fathom like the beginning and just the knowledge, the sea of knowledge that these scholars have. And it's like when you go there without them, it's like you're blind. Versus when you go there with them, you see so much more. Even just the simplest things, like after Fajr, if you're by yourself, you're just gonna go home, nap, and wake up and pray and do your thing. But those halaqas, those stories of the ulama, the scholars of the past, that just makes it makes experience infinitely better. So for the people who are considering going already, do consider going with us, just for this fact of just try it out so you know what you're missing out on. And next time, inshallah, you can keep, judge it based on your experience. But just based on my experience, all the Umrahs I've made in the past versus Umrah I made with Sheikh Khalil, it's not even close.
100%. It's not even close. And Suhbah is always great. Ammar, you were there with us for that 2 years ago, Umrah?
Yeah, I was.
When we met the Australians, subhanAllah. Yeah, that was an amazing evening.
Yeah. Actually, I missed that. That evening was the one that I missed. I missed that evening. It was meant to be,
Subhanallah. No, it's great. Ryan, Ammar did a great job here putting this together. And as we said earlier, clock is ticking on this. If you want to get your thingy, it better be today. Otherwise, you're going to miss out and you're going to regret it. So
we'll do one thing.
Yes, the third week of Ramadan. We're going to be in the third week.
Correct. Yeah. Third week, going into the last 10 days. So like basically the last 3-4 days of your trip is going to be in the last 10 nights. While we're here on the stream, I'm feeling excited. I think Ray's feeling a little excited too. We want to announce a special promotion, just for the brothers and sisters that are listening on stream. So for the doubles package, we're going to take $500 off the doubles package. And you just got to send us an email, be like, hey, I bought this. I tuned in from the NBF stream. I wanted to join with the suhbah. Tell us what brought you here, and we'll make it happen, inshallah. But really, this is when we were working on this trip and overall this building this sort of experience. What one of the Habaib gave us the advice is like, you're really doing da'wah, right? We're trying to bring as many people as possible into this experience. And that's really what it's about for us. It's about, there's things that we've experienced there. Dr. Syed, there's things that you've experienced there, but we want to bring that to as many people as possible.
Especially youth, when they go there, they completely transform. Young people. Really. And adults, I think, I've seen adults also transform. Adults need constant, nonstop, especially if you're living in the West and you're working. You need constant, nonstop attendance to these things. Cleanse the heart, renew the heart. I mean, it used to be back in the day, you attend Umrah once in your life, you're like charged for life. It's almost like going to I used to know people, they go study for a year, they're good for life. That's not the case anymore. The amount of garbage that piles onto us, and humum, like worldly concerns about wealth, busyness, they rust over, and also the amount of things hurled at us, like the amount of media hurled at it, rusts over the heart so easily these days, that what I'm learning more and more is that we Western, all people, I think, need to go get dunked into the Haramain al-Sharifain on a regular basis. You need to be dunked. And it's going to a car wash. In the wintertime, you got to go to a car wash every day, every week. Every Thursday, you got to get your car washed, or whenever it's on your route, right? You got to get your car washed. And likewise, you get your heart cleaned and your iman rejuvenated. And that's why one of the things we've been doing last year is a lot of emphasis on Umrah, and get back to the Haramain al-Sharifain, and be constantly going to the Haramain. And that's, Allah reward you guys. Someone's asking here, can a woman sign up, or is this only for guys?
Yeah, so we've actually had a number of sisters who are coming by themselves sign up. And so we do have packages for where a number of sisters who are coming alone will stay together. So it's actually much, much cheaper. So if you're a sister who's looking to come by yourself, you can get the quad package, which is the cheapest package we have. It's extremely competitive for Ramadan. Just to kind of give you guys a heads up, the quad package, Amar, is 29.
The land-only package for quad is around 2,700.
2,700. So just to give you an idea of how fantastic this package is, if you guys go right now and check Jabal Alman Marriott, just for one night, it's about 900. So you can just do the math. That's just for one night at the hotel, does not include anything else. So if you're coming by yourself, whether you're a brother or sister, more than welcome. We have everything available. One thing I did forget to mention is this is a complete white glove service where we're doing everything from making sure you guys get your vaccines. We do your visa, any and all transportation, including your flights, your tickets, your bus, all that, even down to your laundry. We even have, childcare for if your spouse want to go to the masjid and you have some little ones with you, you can't take with you because they're, for whatever reason, noisy, this, that, or the other. We even have that childcare set up. So it's a full white glove service. We want you guys to have the full experience. Me and Amar are going to be there with some other folks there for your khidmah. We want you guys to really, have an experience out there. And one thing I also wanted to mention, and I'll stop talking, is, having known Dr. Shadee for a small amount of time, I've spent, some time with him in person, and then listening to him on Nothing But Facts. Both are gems, but spending time with Doc in person is a whole nother experience as well. So that's something that itself is worth coming for. I'm sure for the folks on the East Coast who, get to meet him, they can attest to it, as well as, spending time in person with a shuyukh versus listening to a lecture online. It's a different experience, but I'll let Amar and Doc close this out.
No, we're gonna. You spoke very well on the whole thing, and presented it very well. All the logistics he presented in the first half. I think I rudely interrupted, but then, nonetheless, I think you had pretty much wrapped up the logistics part of things. But really, it's so powerful when the futuhat, the openings that you get in Umrah, especially in Ramadan. Also, it's who you meet. Like, part of the openings is that you get to meet so many scholars, so many shuyukh, and so many amazing people. That's also part of the cleansing of ourselves. And the Prophet ﷺ said, the believer is the mirror of the believer, which also means there's so many meanings to that. So if I have a mirror, but I can't really see right, and another mirror comes and there's a lot of light shining on that mirror, when I meet with that mirror, I take some of that. It bounces off of to me. So the believer is the mirror to a believer has so many different meanings, and that's one of them. That's one of the things we get most, is that you walk with your mirror, and you hopefully you're trying to polish your mirror. Then you meet one of these really mountains of the ummah who's there, and his light is coming onto this person. It bounces right to you when you interact with them, and that's what we're hoping for. And my favorite thing is to introduce the people who come to us to Umrah with these mountains. Habib Kadhim, for example, was there. There were so many Mauritanian scholars that are not famous, but there are mountains in the Ummah. So Pakistan, Kashmir, we met some people from Kashmir or Pakistan, I can't remember which one it is, but veteran shuyukh, right? Veteran shuyukh. So I'm looking forward to it. Thank you guys very much for coming on. Again, it's buraqtravel.co, and we're going to have a great trip and an amazing time. Thanks for coming on. Anything else you want to close out with?
Nope.
Just your dua, inshallah.
Muwaffaqeen.
We look forward to having everyone. Any questions, inquiries, there's our contact information on the website. You can shoot us an email. I have my Saudi WhatsApp number on there. You can shoot us a message there. You can DM us on Instagram. And we're here at your guys' service.
Wonderful. Very good. Thank you very much.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Here is a question. If I'm a single person and book a triple or quad, you will be paired with people. Yes. If you book a triple, you'll be paired with 2 people. If you book a quad, you'll be paired with 3 people. If you book a double, you'll be paired with 1 person, right? Dude, you're good at math. If you book a single, you'll be paired with 0 people. Can we do a longer Q&A? Yes, we will do a longer Q&A session. Listen, we have probably tomorrow, we're going to show you some of the best recitation that we had at NBIC. We had an amazing recitation for our, inshallah, soon to be, on its way to being the best Hifz program in the nation. Our Hifz program is headed in that direction. The best in the nation, in the country. And we had our annual recitation last Friday. Did you go? Studying, huh? Livers and hypochondrions and mitochondrions, right? This guy's doing his medical school studies. Yeah. See, I still remember my stuff. The cell has got the mitochondrion in it. It's got the hypochondrion. It's got all sorts of other stuff in it. But the mitochondrion is that's the powerhouse. That's why they call it the mito, based on mighty, right? The mitochondrion, and then you have all sorts of amazing, the cell is like a city. It's like a nation, right? SubhanAllah, Shay Ajib. It's just smaller than us. But you think about it like, is it really smaller than us? How big are we? That's like totally relative. Because if you look at our galaxy, we're like a cell. The Earth itself is like a cell in relation to what we know about the whole galaxy. So when we look at something like the cells in our body as tiny, are they really tiny? Right?
They probably have their own cells.
And they got their own. That's it. What about the nano level of things? I mean, the nano level of things, that's just, your mind will burst. Basically, the nano level of things and the galactic level of things, right? And I love how people say, and we're in the middle. Who's to say we're in the middle? How do you know? We don't know the limits of the smallness or the bigness, right? Of the galactic level of things. You know, the discoveries of the galactic level has now rendered not the Earth, not the sun, our galaxy to be a speck. And then still people have kibr, arrogance with the Creator. Shay Ajib. Shay Ajib. Listen, folks. Question: can I use miswak? Yes, you can, but it causes bleeding. You spit the blood out. Rinse water and split the blood out. Okay. Why would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put people in hell? Okay. Muhammad Zahiruddin. Do you know who you're talking about? I want you to contemplate every word of what you said. The first one is Allah. Who are you talking to? Who are you talking about? What are his attributes? From the mere attributes of the grandiosity and power of Allah, that by itself should make us shut our mouths. That's number one. From the mere amount of mercy that the Creator has, will also make us, why am I worried about hell? Do you think he's not wise? You think he's not merciful? So I like to actually, and I'll tell you this, if you have a strong male figure in your life, you'll get it. If you ever worked in any place in like a military or anything with a hierarchy that actually achieves goals, you cannot achieve any goals without a hierarchy, without very strong people and supporting staff, and everyone knows their job. Okay? You will get what I'm saying when I tell you, do you see the power of the one you're talking about? He does not need to explain anything to us. We're even lucky that we have any mercy to think and breathe. That is the greatness of his power. If I was to meet someone who has this power, I would shut my mouth, right? I would just shut my mouth. We do believe in the concept of fear of God. If you're standing in front of the head of the American military, for example, and he has no law to observe except his own will, right? He has no law. And you stand in front of a U.S., if the military general of the U.S. Army was sitting right here, there's a sense that he's bound to a law. So it's tempered. But if he's not bound to a law, he does what he wants. He does whatever he wants. You would think twice before having an attitude, right? And when we ask a question and say something like, how could he put people in hell? I don't know whether to believe in him or not. You are making a judgment. You are judging the people as being not worthy of it, right? Or you're judging that that's mean. Why are you making a judgment? How long have you existed? How long has your brain marinated in the realm of thought and intelligence and knowledge? 30 years? What in the world is 30 years? If we were to write a history of the United States, 30 years, it'd be half a page. And this is the youngest country in the world is the United States. If we were writing a history of China, this is one of the oldest civilizations in the world, or Mesopotamia. 30 years is half a line. It would not even be 2 lines in the book. Where's our brain bringing up a moral standard to judge God with? Like, our minds are so weak. Our knowledge is weak. All right, who's going to hell? Do you know how much pain a certain person, like a murderer, has caused? How much pain did he cause the daughter of the victim? What about a guy like Netanyahu? Do you think Netanyahu killed anyone by himself? Or a whole group of people had to do this? Aren't they all? What if you took the sadness and the grief of all those people and made it into manifest form? Right? It would overtake the entire earth. Then you go to Joseph Stalin and he did the same thing. Then you go to some single guy, a single person who was an oppressor in his own household. And that's a microcosm. This is the same thing. He's no different than Joseph Stalin, except that all he could oppress was 2 people. Stalin could oppress 200 million people. And he killed a whole chunk of them. But they're the same thing. So with what information are we judging people to say they didn't deserve that? And on top of that, I want to take it one step further. On what audacity do we have to enter the conversation about what he does with his private property? Is this not Allah's private property? You yourself, if your best friend had issues with his wife and his kids, and you heard he's doing things and saying things, who are you to get involved in his life? Are we not the divine's private property? Why are we getting involved? He has the right to do what he wants with his private property. Okay, so that's one aspect. On another aspect of it, the other aspect is that Allah Ta'ala has obligated upon himself justice. He's obligated to nothing except what he obligates himself upon. And he obligated justice upon himself. If that's the case, then why am I worried? Justice, hellfire, is a fair penalty and punishment to those who enter into it. There's no injustice happening here. On top of that, he informed us that he is the most merciful of all mercy. That means if all, the Prophet ﷺ said, if the mercy of all the entire earth, from the animals to the humans, and he emphasized the mothers. You know how much mercy a mother has, for example? Like a mother for her baby will have more mercy probably than a man for his whole life, right? Just the amount of mercy a mom shows in the first 2 years of a baby's life was probably more than her husband for his whole life. But take that and compile all of it from the first human being, an animal, to the last human being, an animal. All of that mercy, the Prophet ﷺ said. Then put it up next to the divine mercy that is shown on the Day of Judgment. Not all of the divine mercy. No, just the mercy that Allah shows on the Day of Judgment. He said it will not weigh 1 out of 100. Like, there was 99 left. So take all the mercy that existed here. It is only 1 out of 100 of the mercy that Allah shows on the Day of Judgment. The mercy that Allah shows on the Day of Judgment is not all of his mercy. When you have firm belief in this, in the mercy of Allah, why are you worried about anything? Like, there's no way somebody's going to be oppressed. And of all the oppressors, they're going to get so much forgiveness and mercy. Why am I worried? So that's the answer to that question. Nobody should ever think twice and worry at all about anyone or anything. Worry about yourself. You worried about hell. Maybe I won't believe in God because he has hell. I think you should worry about yourself being one of the denizens there. Not to be harsh, but that's the truth. Like, let's worry about ourselves here. What do you mean other people entering hell? You could enter hell too. Justifiably too. Earning it. So I understand a lot of people, they have such an entitlement, and I'm not saying the questioner does, but a lot of people do. Such an entitlement they can't fathom, man. Oof. Consequences for my actions? No, there should be one consequence. Forgiveness or reward. 2 consequences. That's it. It's either forgiveness or reward, or you're not good. Okay. No one has told you, okay, say, don't like it. You don't have to like it. These are consequences. That's what entitlement is. It's you're living life constantly, no consequences, such that you feel that you can talk back to God himself. That at some point in time, what happens to every third world country, they come to realize, shoot, a chicken has come home to roost. We're not getting away with stuff anymore. There are consequences, right? Bad things actually happen. Brings you down a little bit into some humility and to realize how weak we are, and we're lucky to have any mercy of God at all. That's how I look at it. And Allah knows best. And I know it sounds a bit harsh, but the mercy part is not harsh. No one has a problem with that. But I really view it as, who are we even to talk to and ask the Creator what he's doing, right? Except asking out of learning and wisdom and curiosity. That's good. Prophet Ibrahim did that. But to teach us a lesson, he said, oh, well, Ibrahim, you're not a believer? He said, no, I believe. I'm asking to have more iman, more certainty of faith and iman. Okay. Here's a good question. Is there a rational proof for the necessity that God is truthful? How do you know he's not lying to us? That's a great question. And the answer is very simple. God is one and unified. He is not of parts. He is one and he's unified. Therefore, at all times, what he says and what he does derive from the same source, which is his knowledge, or in accord, I should say. They are in accord at all times with his knowledge. Okay. So what he says is in accord with his knowledge, and what he does is in accord with his knowledge. Therefore, what he says is always in accord with what he does. And speech and reality, both emanating from one source, therefore are always the same. A lie is basically that your speech is not in accord with reality. This is Imam al-Ghazali's proof, that knowledge speech, action are all in accord with one another. There's no discord in the attributes of God, such as, let's say, saying this is white, but it's actually black. Or saying it's black and it's actually, we all see it's white, but saying it's black. So that's a discord between speech and knowledge. I tell you this is black, you clearly see it's white. That's a discord. So because based on the unity of God, it's not just that he is one, within himself he's one. Within himself he's unified. He's not composed of parts. And as a result of that, the attributes of the Creator are all in accord with one another. Hence his speech and his actions are one and the same, in accord. That's what we call truth. Q&A, open Q&A today because we didn't get to Q&A for a while.
Should I have a question?
Yes.
Okay, so this has to do with the two concepts. The concept of al-wasila, when you ask for Rasul to be granted al-wasila.
Open our Dr. Ahmed's mic.
Yeah, so the question is involving al-wasila and how. Right,
Yes.
so when you make dua for Rasul to be given the station of al-wasila, but also the hadith where we're told to love Rasul more than we love ourselves.
100%.
So if I'm understanding correctly, al-wasila is the closest you can ever be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even in the akhirah. And we're instructed to ask Rasul for him to be given that position. Is there are you giving power to your ego by allowing even the possibility of Allah loving you and giving that position to you or to someone else?
Okay, so the positions of prophets are established. They are the most beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and from the about 124,000, we have to say about. That's what, as the Prophet ﷺ told us, so that otherwise we would leave people in or remove people. About 124,000. These are the most beloved of Allah's creation. There's no contesting them. No one can say, I'm going to reach a higher station. It's set in stone. From them, about 315 from the 124K were chosen to be messengers. From them, a distinct 5 were made ulul azm. From them, 1, their imam, which is the Prophet ﷺ. Al-Maqam al-Mahmud is the highest seat, and it is on the right of the throne in Yawm al-Qiyamah. That's the Maqam al-Mahmud. That, and we pray, and that is already granted to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And our prayer for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to receive that, we're asking that for him, is a teaching from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but we should never imagine that he's getting it because of our prayers. So what we hold is that by praying that for him, we get to benefit from it. It's as if, for example, somebody, he's got like an army. The Prophet ﷺ used to have people who would fund an army. But then somebody would come with a handful of dates. So the date does not help the army. A handful of date does not move the needle with the army. But by helping, he's getting the reward of it. Right? So we should always view our salah and salam and dua after adhan for the Prophet ﷺ, that in language it appears like we're praying for him, but in reality we are the beneficiaries of it. And he's only telling us, do this, make this dua so that you can benefit. Just as he's saying, donate to my army. He doesn't need that. He didn't need any of Sahabi. But it's for everybody to benefit from. So those positions, that about 124,000 is untouchable. No one will ever be close. So forget just one. 124,000. And on top of that, the Sahaba. We will never reach the rank of any Sahabi of any prophet unless we were to meet Prophet Isa bin Maryam at the end of time. Then you are Sahabi. So 124,000 prophets, they have Sahaba. That whole generation of anybody who was merely in their presence. That's it. You don't have to talk. Merely in their presence as a believer and died on that same iman, that we're locked from them too. We will never reach their station either. Except some said that the only station's suhbah that is locked is the suhbah of the Prophet ﷺ, and that a Muslim in this ummah can surpass a sahabi of another prophet. That has been said, right? It has been said that. But let's actually just be even more than 124,000 plus 124,000 and their generations. Those positions are locked, that they will always be superior to us. And on the more other side, 124,000 prophets, about plus one generation, which is the Sahaba. And then the Sahaba of Isa ibn Maryam at the end of time. Does that answer your question? Definitely. That's locked. We'll never attain it. So what I would say about someone, say that we are even lucky to be believers, period. Because people will come on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Umar ibn Khattab said, if I thought that there was all of humanity was forgiven except one, I would still worry it's me. You know how many humans have lived, right? What is the percentage of one person over the entirety of humans that have existed? That number cannot even, this wouldn't even fill the screen if the font was at 1. You would hit 0.0000 all the way across the screen just to count how many humans there have been as the denominator and 1 as the numerator. That's the chance of you going to hell. And Umar ibn Khattab said, I'd worry that it's me. And that's after the Prophet already told him you're in paradise, in his face. He didn't hear it. It wasn't a narration that he said maybe it's speculative. No, he died upon that too. He didn't change it and say, okay, maybe now, but maybe the future. No, the Prophet died upon holding and announcing that there were 10 guaranteed paradise by name. There are many guaranteed paradise by illusion, by not directly, but by name. 10 guaranteed Jannah. Umar is one of them, and he still said, if all humanity is forgiven and the whole ummah is forgiven, except one person, I fear maybe it's me. It's not forgiven, right? So whenever that thoughts enter our hearts, we have to remember, we don't realize as Muslims how lucky we are to be from the ummah of Islam. There have been other religions. Of course, all of them share the same aqidah. But other ummahs, we should say, not the other religion. The religion with Allah is one. But there have been other nations, other prophets, and their nations did not fare anywhere close to the success that this ummah has had. Just the idea, like the history of this ummah, where you could go any place and you'll find another Muslim. Imagine you had an ummah where after the generation of the first companions of that prophet, things started to fall apart and the book was lost. Or chapters of the book were altered and we arguing. No, you altered it. Yeah, no, I didn't alter it. Yes, you altered it. That fight is not fathomable to a Muslim. The Quran is untouchable to us. All right, what did the Prophet say? He said this. No, he said that. Oh, we don't know what he said. You go up 3 generations, I don't really know what he said. Hadith is fixed for us. They studied it, they analyzed it, and they categorized it. With some flexibility and difference of opinion on the categorizations. But in general, we have the hadith. Imagine growing 10 generations after a prophet and it's just sayings, sentiments. Maybe he said this, maybe he said that. No certainty. SubhanAllah. And then on top of that, your religion starts to get defeated by other people. And in your mind, you're thinking, oh, it's going to fade away. It's fading away. Yeah, and it fades away. Completely fades away. Pagans take over. Our ummah will never fade away and will always be renewed. And so, yes, in a certain location, it can fade away. Whereas Ahl Sunnah in Iran, it's gone. But the ummah is not Iran. The ummah is far bigger than Iran. So that's the one thing. What was the other thing that you asked about?
I think it was the same thing. It was the same concepts. But I think hearing that answer, I think I find the wisdom in that, in the sense that it just completely destroys any level of spiritual arrogance you could possibly have.
SubhanAllah, yeah.
You can't, there's the fact that it's locked, I think
it's locked, SubhanAllah. And the Sahaba is locked. It's very humbling. And that's why maqams are given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And on one hand, it's humbling. On another hand, it's empowering. So I'll tell you how it is. So you have a scholar, let's say Imam al-Ghazali. This scholar, like, he's at a level of scholarship that this is the highest level. Like, even in his lifetime, they used to call him the proof of Islam. Or you have people like that in the Bani Israel's time lived 400 years, never committed one sin. You can't imagine that, right? Worshipped Allah all day and night in a mountain or something like that. Or you have people today doing amazing deeds, saving lives, donating to charity, all this stuff, memorizing the whole Quran. Then you get one Bedouin walking through Badr and pitching his tent because he's traveling. A pagan, Arab, 7th century. This person is probably one of the most basic humans that have ever lived. Basic. This man has seen nothing but a brown desert, a blue sky, goat, camel, sheep, woman, milk, date, meat. He's probably seen no greenery. Maybe he's seen a palm tree once or twice in his life. This person has no clue about government, math, anything. This is one of the simplest human beings you will ever see in your whole life. This is a real person, by the way. He then sees a battle about to ensue. And he says, what's happening here? He said, one man from that side has claimed to be a prophet, and his tribe is fighting him. He says, and what does this prophet promise? So clearly the man, he's seen Jews and Christians, so he knows what a prophet is. He says, he promises if you die in his sake, you go to Jannah. So because the Jews and Christians did live in Arabia, he has that framework, that there's God, and there's afterlife, and there are prophets, angels and demons. He knows that. So he says, now he's asking a stranger. He doesn't know anyone there. A stranger told him that. In his mind, the stranger said the truth, right? In his mind. He said, then, are you between me and living forever in heaven? He's about to eat his lunch. The lunch or the breakfast and lunch of those people was just a handful of dates. He said, between me and heaven are a handful of dates. He threw it. He ran into the battle and was gunned down immediately, was killed. They asked the Prophet about him. O Messenger of Allah. Like, he implicitly took his shahada, but he actually never took shahada, right? He never said the words of shahada, but implicitly, obviously, he's a believer. He didn't even have the knowledge to take shahada. He never made wudu once in his life. He never saw the Prophet. He was in the same vicinity as the Prophet. He never prayed one rak'ah of salah, never heard Surah Al-Fatiha in his life. And in our aqeedah, this man's maqam is a sahabi. And as a result of that, he is greater in spiritual rank with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than every single tabi'i and person until the day of judgment, including the Sahaba of Prophet Isa ibn Maryam. So what does that tell us? It's an announcement from the Creator, says, I choose who I want. You don't know why I chose him, right? You don't know what behavior that man did, right? In private, possibly, for me to choose him. And by the way, even that concept is off. That concept that he justifies why he chose him, that's off. I don't need to justify anything. I chose him to be with the highest maqam of Sahaba. So you know what? On one hand, you're like, oh, so all the power is his. We have no power. But that's also empowering on the other side, because wait a second. If you just chose him and there's no scale, you just because you wanted to, then why don't you want something like that for me? Yeah, it won't be Sahabi, but it could be something else. Raise me to a rank. And now your question is, do you have the power to believe it? That is possible. Because once you remove the asbab, that man didn't attain the rank of suhbah by his actions. It's by Allah's mercy and generosity. So why don't we access that generosity too? So we have to believe in it. Hearts that clean from sin can tap into and access and fully believe in that generosity. And that's why it's empowering to realize all the power is in Allah's hand and he's not answerable to anyone. And it's not an equation for him. بِغَيْرِ hisab. How many times do you read in the Quran, بِغَيْرِ hisab? It's not an equation. So we say, okay, if that's the case, oh, well, I'm putting my best effort. My math isn't adding up. You take me there, just as you took that Sahabi. to be the Abdul Qadir Jailani of our generation. It could happen, right? Oh, it can't happen because I'm not this. No, forget math. Forget the equations. Just put your best effort in giving your little sandbox of reality. That's all you have to worry about. And then you leave it to Allah Ta'ala and you ask. Prophet ﷺ said, إِذَا سَأَلْتُمْ فَأَعْظِمُوا الْمَسْأَلَةِ. If you ask, make it great. Because otherwise, you are assuming weakness for God. All right? فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَتَعَظَمَهُ شَيْءٍ. Nothing is too big for Allah. So if you say, oh, I'm not going to say, oh, Allah, make me the Abdul Qadir al-Jailani of our age. I'm going to say, just make me generally salih. Barely. No. Why are you saying that? You think it's a hassle for Allah? You think it's a hardship for Allah? For example, if I ever needed money, I would maybe say, give me, lend me $100. I'm not going to say, lend me $1,000. I'm not going to say $10,000. I'm going to be reasonable because I don't want to burden you, right? If I ever have to need you to spot me for something, I forgot my wallet, we're at a restaurant. All right, spot me for this order. It's $30. I'm not going to ask you to spot me ever for $10,000, right? Why? Because I know you have limits. That's why. The adab is only because I know you have limits. Allah has no limits. To treat Allah as if he has a limit, that's anthropomorphism. That's wrong, right? So don't let that even sneak up in your prayer and make your ask big and vast. Slim Shadee is here and he asks, after converting to Islam, or he says reverting to Islam, are previous sins erased, but are good deeds erased? No, good deeds stay, sins erased. The only part of the sin that is not erased is what you would owe somebody. So, for example, if you owe someone money from having maybe broken something in their house, I broke his window or something. If you intentionally did that, the sin is erased, but the debt is not erased. So that's why the Prophet ﷺ said debts are not erased. Okay. And look who we have here. The one and only Habib Wali Syed is here. If I'm not mistaken, that's our Habib, correct? Our Habibs. How did you get Wi-Fi? Where are you? Oh, that's why. Okay, good. Good for you. MashaAllah, we're missing you here. Flossie B, I would have to ask about that. All right, I would have to ask about that. Sheikh Murad is back? Oh, mashallah, wonderful. Wonderful. Bilal at Timbuktu, is it a tenet of faith? He's talking about the alignment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's speech and truthfulness. It's a tenet of faith, he has to believe that everything that emits, that all divine speech is the absolute truth. Whether we say its basis is rational or scriptural, because basis of beliefs can be scriptural and or rational. Okay? But the reason that this has to be a rational belief is because if it's a scriptural belief, the whole question regards the truthfulness of the scripture. So therefore it won't be the hujjah, the proof. It can't be the proof for itself. So it's like saying to somebody, trust me. Okay, well, give me a reason to trust you. And I tell you, because I'm telling you to trust me. But that's the source that I'm questioning in the first place. They cannot give me the answer. So, but the common person is not going to be asked about what his source of belief is. He just has to believe that Allah says the truth. The common person is not given theological tests on the in the grave or on the day of judgment, as long as you believe that the divine word is true by default. That's all you need. But if you're a thinking person, you realize that the truthfulness of the divine must have a purely rational basis, because the scripture is what we're questioning in the first place, right? And hence that's the rational basis, which is that the knowledge, speech, and action of the divine are in accord with one another. Otherwise, you're proposing discord within the divine. And that is an impossibility on the nature of the divine being one and one in himself. What's the significance of going to Sayyidina? What's the significance of going to Hamza's grave and dua there? Hamza who? Okay, so Sayyidina Hamza, not Hamza, our buddy from the street or the guy who died last week. So Sahaba, you cannot just call them by their name unless you're having a long story about them, then you may, right? If it becomes burdensome. But if we're just going to talk about one person, that's why I always, someone once said, what did Omar say about this? Oh, Omar who? Your buddy Omar from the street? Did your parents ever say that? Whenever they wanted to say something, they said from the street, right? Was which Omar? The guy at the kid in the masjid, or the guy off the street, or what? No, say no. Oh, Sahabi say no. Okay, now I know who you're talking about. Firstly, the graves of the Salihin are places that are blessed. Allah blesses times, places, and people. And the graves of Salihin consist of two things: people and places. And of course, they're not people in this world anymore. They're not in this world anymore, but they still exist in Alam al-Barzakh, somewhere far from here. But there is a connection to their grave. Hence, you visit it because it's a place of barakah. Secondly, it's a sunnah to visit. The Prophet ﷺ visited those graves. Thirdly, we would visit the Salihin. We would make dua for them. We make dua for ourselves too, because it's a place that's blessed. You have, I believe, who was it? One of the awliya of Baghdad, Bishr al-Hafi, I believe. I remember who it was. They said that the dua done at the grave of Bishr al-Hafi was always answered. And Allah knows best. I mean, I can make my dua for myself anywhere, right? But if the place is more blessed, then more likelihood of place, time, and person. So, for example, if your mom was to make dua for you, this would be better for you than you yourself. If your mom is happy with you, anytime that your mom is laughing with you and happy, ask her to make dua, right? Because she's in a happy, she's pleased with you at that time, and her dua for you is better than your dua for yourself. Even if she was to make dua for you in passing, but you were to be crying at the Kaaba, her dua is superior. 100%. If your mom is just in passing saying, oh, may Allah bless you. You bought me a nice grilled cheese sandwich and this iced Coke. May Allah bless you. Right? That is probably heavier for you than you were to be weeping at the Kaaba in Laylat al-Qadr, in the last third of the night. Right? That's just how it is. Also, the madloom, the opposed, right? Oppressed. I mean, Ryan J says, why do you believe Gog and Magog come before the Dajjal when the Quran helps confirm they have been released, since the Jews are back in Jerusalem and Quds? This is Imran Hussein's theories, number one. Number two, Ya'juj and Majuj do not come before Dajjal. They come after the Dajjal has been killed completely because of the hadith. The Quran does not confirm that they have been released. They have not been. There's no such confirmation from the Quran that they have been released. إِذَا فُتِحْ يَأْجُوجَ وَمَأْجُوجَ. إِذَا, in the future. حَتَّى إِذَا فُتِحَتْ يَأْجُوجَ. إِذَا فُتِحَتْ, in the future, not in the past. Okay. Let's look at how it's translated, because I think that's the verse that the brother's talking about. See how it's translated. And that's the thing is, Sheikh Sadiq used to be very upset, and he used to say, all false ideas in Islam, they always originate from someone who doesn't understand the Arabic. He's not putting people down, but he's just saying the truth. Okay? حتى إذا فتحت يأجوج ومأجوج وهم من كل حدب ينسلون واقترب الوعد الحق. And the next ayah is telling you it's near. That means it didn't happen yet. The next ayah is telling you وحرام على قرية أهلكناها أنهم لا يرجعون حتى إذا فتحت يأجوج ومأجوج وهم من كل حدب ينسلون واقترب الوعد الحق. It's near. He's telling you, how could something have happened yet? Yet Allah tells you it's near. Sometimes you also just need to read the verses before and after a verse to truly understand it. Right. Let's read the tafsir here rather than just bringing stuff from our own selves. All right. Tafsir of that is going to come. قوله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Surah Al-NBF, by the way. Long tafsir of the previous verses. Really long. SubhanAllah. All the way down. Hold on. Sabrun. You know, I like these questions. It forces you to read something you never read before. Here it is. حتى إذا فتحت قرأ ابن عامر وأبو جعفر ويعقوب فتحت بالتشديد على التكثير وقرأ الآخرون بالتخفيف يأجوج ومأجوج يريد فتح السد عن يأجوج ومأجوج وهم كل حدب ينسلون أي نشز وتل والحدب المكان المرتفع. الحدب is an elevated place. ينسلون يسرعون النزول. They coming down from it very quickly. Okay. وهو سرعة مشي, moving quickly. واختلفوا في هذه الكناية. They differed on this. One group said عني بهم يأجوج ومأجوج بدليل ما روينا عن النواس بن سمعان عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ويبعث الله يأجوج ومأجوجهم من كل حدب ينسلون. Okay, the Prophet ﷺ said Allah will release Ya'juj and Ma'juj and they will come from every hill and valley. وقال قوم أراد جميع الخلق يعني يوم القيامة أنهم يخرجون من قبورهم. And the verse is firstly has ihtimal in the first place. It could also be all people, this ayah, that they will come on the day of judgment. But the correct one is that it's about Ya'juj and Ma'juj. إذا فتحت يأجوج ومأجوج وهم من كل حدب ينسلون. Because there's no maqal for يوم القيامة here. This is about يأجوج and مأجوج. There's no siyaq for that. Okay. قال أخبرنا سفيان عن فرات طلع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ونحن نتذاكر. The Prophet looked upon us, gazed upon us while we were studying. قال ما تذكرون. He said, what are you speaking about? What are you discussing? They said the sa'ah, the afterlife, the end of time. قال إنها لن تقوم. It will not come. حتى تروا قبلها 10 آيات. It will not come until you see 10 signs. Then he mentioned the smoke, the Dajjal, the beast, the sun rising from the west, the descent of Isa bin Maryam, Ya'juj and Ma'juj, and three eclipses. No mention of that, but this ayah is about the future, not the past. All right, so if you have a retort, Ryan J., if you are a student of this subject matter, please bring your retort, because we're here to find the truth. We're not here to find a side. And my biggest problem with some of these other speakers and their followers, they'll take an interpretation and render it the final say. And on top of that, the interpretation's wrong. So you cannot, rather than being ignorant, I'm not saying he's being ignorant, I'm just saying in general. You cannot take something that's an interpretation and render it to be the final say of the religion. It's just unfair. It's not true. If you answer a question, for example, from one of the madhabs, you have to tell the people that it's an opinion, not the qawlun fasl of Islam. The qawlun fasl, and the phrase qawlun fasl means the final say, the say that has no discussion about it. The qawlun fasl of Islam are things that are so explicit, there's no room for interpretation. For example, we don't pray dhuhr Asr, Maghrib, Isha, because we're Shafi'is, Hanafis, or Malikis. You're just because you're Muslim. This is Qawl Fasl fil Islam. There's no discussion that we have Salah. There's no discussion we have Sawm. But if you are going to say Qad Qamat as-Salah once or twice in the Iqamah, that's ikhtilaf between the madhabs. Then you could say, okay, I follow Malik's opinion or Shafi'i's opinion or Abu Hanifa's opinion, or what have you. So just to elevate our discourse a bit, there are interpretive matters and there are non-interpretive. The non-interpretive, you say the Hawad al-Islam, that's it. Interpretive matters, you got to say. You cannot treat an interpretive matter as the final say and then have antagonism and make fun of everyone who doesn't follow your interpretation of things. And that's if your interpretation is right in the first place. A lot of these guys, the interpretation is just in La La Land to begin with, right? So it's not even an acceptable interpretation. It's completely unacceptable to begin with. So many comments and questions coming in. It's nice to see how successful this live stream has become. Alhamdulillah. I mean, I would do it anyway, but when it's successful, it feels a lot better, and it's nice to see. And there's so many questions. So he's saying the Jews in the Quds, they have to be Gog and Magog. No, they do not have to be, and they are not Gog and Magog. They are not Gog and Magog. Gog and Magog existed before Jacob. Ya'juj and Majuj are two tribes that existed at the time of Dhul Qarnayn. Dhul Qarnayn lived at the time of Prophet Ibrahim. Yaqub, Jacob, son of Isaac, son of Abraham, had not even come into existence yet when Dhul Qarnayn blocked off Ya'juj and Majuj. These are two wicked tribes. They were so dangerous, they needed to be blocked off. And he blocked them off the earth. Somehow he blocked them off. Maybe they lived in a cave, who knows what, and he blocked them off. And then earthquakes come and sea levels rise and fall, and then now maybe that cave is like under the ground. Because you know the earth is always changing. Okay, who knows what? We don't know where they are. Some of Gog and Magog people may have been traveling when this happened, so the actual people of Gog and Magog may have actually, some of them weren't buried with their people. They could have been traveling. Who knows? That's a possibility, right? But that's insignificant for us. That's irrelevant for us. When did this happen? Dhul Qarnayn he existed in the time of Ibrahim. Jews, Yahud, Bani Israel, they're the sons of Yaqub. They're not all the sons of Isaac. Ishaq had many sons. Only the line of Yaqub is what we now call Bani Israel. But after they rejected Sayyidina Isa, they can no longer be attributed to Yaqub, because Yaqub is a Nabi. Kuffar are never attributed to a Nabi. If there's a prophet in front of us and he has a son, and that son apostates out of the truth, we would no longer say he's your son. Allah says to Nuh, إِنَّهُ لَيْسَ مِنْ أَهْلِكَ إِنَّهُ عَمَلٌ غَيْرُ صَالِحٍ. Once someone becomes a kafir, he has lost the privilege of being called the son of a prophet. So that's why we no longer call them Bani Israel. We call them Yahud. Yahud is the next person in their lineage. Yehuda is also the state that they were living in. Because Prophet Sulaiman, he broke up Israel into 12 states. 12 districts. That's where the Hunger Games got it from. 12 districts. 10 of them left completely. 2 of them remained. Judah, can't remember what the cities were called. Judea, Yahud, basically. Judea was the dominant state. It's almost like all of the, let's say, the 13 colonies, 11 left, and New York and New Jersey stayed, right? New York is such a big dominant state that we're just going to all be called New Yorkers, right? So Judea dominated. So they just became called Yahud after their kufr with Isa bin Maryam. Right? They became called Yahud, referring either to their forefather Yehuda or the state of Judea. We don't call them Bani Israel because we don't attribute a kafir to a prophet. These Yahud have nothing to do with Ya'juj and Majuj. They will be the supporters of the Dajjal, and then after Sayyidina Isa kills the Dajjal, then eventually those Yahud will enter Islam too. There's good ending to some of these Jews. It has nothing to do with Ya'juj and Ma'juj at all. Not even close. Not by any bizarre stretch of interpretation can the Zionists be determined to be Ya'juj and Ma'juj. Ya'juj and Ma'juj, when they come, okay, when they come, it will be Sayyidina Isa bin Maryam will take the believers up on the mountaintops, because even the great prophet of Allah, Isa bin Maryam, will not have the power, the permission from Allah to defeat them. Nobody defeats Ya'juj and Ma'juj. The Prophet ﷺ said an infection, a bug, bites their neck and they die from disease. Which you as a physician, you could probably think about it. If you've been under the ground so long, and then you come above the ground, your immune system is not accustomed to this world that we're living in. So they wreak havoc for long, then a disease gets them and wipes them all out. So he's saying, go to Surah Al-Isra verses 4 and 8, and he says here, وَقَضَيْنَا إِلَى بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ فِي الْكِتَابِ لَتُفْسِدُونَ فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَّتَيْنِ وَلَتَعْلُنَّ عُلُوًّا كَبِيرًا فإذا جاء وعد أولاهما باتنا عليكم عبادا لنا أولي بأس شديد فجاسوا خلال الديار وكان وعدا مفعولا ثم رددنا لكم الكرة عليهم وأمددناكم بأموال وبنين وجعلناكم أكثر نفيرا. No mention of Ya'juj and Ma'juj here at all. I want to teach the brother something. You have to look at something called, this is for Ryan J. There's a phrase called ihtimalat, which is possibilities. When you get a verse, because it may possibly refer to something, does not mean that it does absolutely refer to something. Okay, maybe it refers to that. Do you know how many ihtimalat are in the Quran? That's why we have tafsir. You go to one ayah, it can be given a tafsir one way and a whole another way the other way. And we say both of them are possibly correct. Neither of them is absolutely correct. This is the meaning of ihtimalat, possibilities of meaning. This is what's called dhanni ad-dalala. It's speculative what it's pointing to. To give you an example, if I tell you, please go downstairs and get me an apple. So, you can take away two absolutes. That I believe that there's an apple downstairs. That I want an apple. Of all the foods in the world, an apple. But I have not been specific about what kind of apple. If you were to get me a warm yellow apple, you'd fulfilled the request. If you get me a cold, crisp red apple, you'd fulfill the request. If you get me a cut up apple, you fulfilled the request. If you give me a whole apple, you fulfilled the request. So there's ihtimal. Now, what kind of apple I like, you're going to go down, you go downstairs, you see 3 apples in the fridge, 3 apples on the counter, 3 apples cut up in pieces. You're going to think, what is my methodology to know what kind of apple he wants? So the smartest methodology will be to ask yourself, have I ever gotten him an apple before? Like people in a household. They think, okay, yeah, I remember that time. Yeah, we got him. He loves that kind of apple. That's a methodology to know which of the possibilities is the correct one, right? So if I every single day ask you to get me an apple, and I previously specified small red apples from the fridge, and you've lived with me for 10 years, a child has lived with his dad for 10 years, and he knows the dad likes this kind of apple. Now I say, go get me an apple, and you have a big yellow apple on the counter and a little red apple in the fridge. Your methodology, you don't really have much an excuse anymore. Your methodology should tell you it's a little red apple in the fridge. Now, if you go and you get me the big yellow apple, technically, by the letter of the law and the language, you followed the instructions, right? But your interpretation is wrong. You should know better. So what I want the people such as Ryan J, when you watch these videos, is keep in mind there are interpretive things and there are absolute things. And most of what Ya'juj and Majuj is or isn't, and the verses that you're quoting are all interpretive. But I'll tell you what's not interpretive. Hatta إِذَا فُتِحَتْ يَأْجُوجُ وَمَأْجُوجُ, just because it says إِذَا, it does, and futihat is in the past tense, does not mean it already happened. It's an expression that it will happen. And I'll give you the proof. Do we not recite in the Quran, إِذَا وَقَعَتِ الْوَاقِعَةِ إِذَا زُلْزِلَتِ الْأَرْضُ? Has it happened yet? It's saying when, and it's putting it in the past tense, meaning absolutely certain it will happen. Does not mean it happened yet. And those surahs are the proof. إِذَا زُلْزِلَتِ الْأَرْضُ. Has that happened yet? That the Yawm al-Qiyamah has occurred on the earth? Okay. Alrighty, folks. More questions here. So many questions here. What if I accidentally swallow a twig of miswak? No, you have to make sure you don't. You have to make sure you don't. And if you were to accidentally swallow food on anything in the fast, you owe a day. But the Shafi'iyya may have a different opinion, so ask the Shafi'iyya about that. But for Malik, what he says in the hadith, أَطْعَمَكَ اللَّهُ سَقَاكَ, or أَطْعَمَهُ اللَّهُ سَقَاكَ, is Allah gave him a drink. For Malik, he interprets that as the ithm, the sin is not written for you, but you still owe a day. And you have to do imsak for the rest of the day. You have to abstain from eating from the rest of the day. Does dying for a country make you a shaheed? Yes, it makes you a shaheed if you were dying for the countries for a valid reason, such as your nation was being invaded. It's no different from a thief stealing your stuff from your house, and you died defending your home and your property. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Man qutila duna malihi fahuwa shahid." Whoever dies protecting his wealth is a shaheed. So, if an invasion comes into your country, then you die defending. That's a valid and righteous cause. You can inshallah be treated as shaheed for that. If the country died for your country in the Iraq war, which, if you ask me and everyone else, was an unjust war. If you even ask half the soldiers, there was an unjust war. Then no, you're not shaheed. You're an oppressor, actually. That's why I don't support the military just for no reason. I mean, most of the U.S. wars, honestly, after the Revolutionary War, I don't know what's valid. The Revolutionary War, they seem to be some oppressed miskeens, right? The soldiers of the British have to live in their homes when the guy's working, and the soldier has to rest in his house and sleep in his home. That doesn't make any sense. And then you keep taxing everything. This illegal taxation. This is theft. So they went and they revolted. That's, probably valid. After that, what American war is valid after that? War of 1812, maybe? I mean, everyone forgets what that's even all about. Are there other opinions on who is a Sahabi? No, a Sahabi is very clearly anyone who was in the presence of the Prophet as a Muslim and died upon that same Islam. Even if you actually never made eye contact with the Prophet or talked to the Messenger, peace be upon him. All right. A misyar marriage. So a misyar marriage pertains a type of marriage where the woman, you agree that the woman drops her huquq. So, for example, that she agrees in contract, you no longer have to provide for me. I work for myself. You no longer have to give me equal visitation, or you could just swing by once a month, or we can go out on a date once a week. So in Islam, the concept of a woman foregoing some of her rights is being forgiving about not claiming, I should say this, not claiming her rights is her decision. But to officially and contractually forego those rights is not allowed. So they are her rights, and she may ask for them at any time. Whereas if you did a misyar contract where she is foregoing them by contract, she can never ask for them back, that's not allowed. So, people are forgiving each other all the time. So if it so happens that it's understandable that you live in another country, I live here, I pretty much take care of myself day to day, and then when you come, you visit and we can be married, and I'm okay with that. But she should not officially or contractually forego those rights, because then she can never ask for them back. The condition, what the Sharia requires, is that the moment she does no longer wants to forego these rights, she can say, husband, I need my rights. I'm not working anymore. You need to cover the rent and the food. And you need to give me time too. Right? You can't ignore me. And what's the time? At least once every 4 days. Just as the maximum a man could have is 4 wives, right? So he's going to visit one every 4 days. So she can request that. So the misyar doesn't allow her to request her rights anymore. And that's why it's not allowed. But there is flexibility in the Sharia, understanding that it may be a situation where she forgives, not forgoes them completely. She's just forgiving that he can't fulfill all his rights. That's acceptable. But to officially forgo them, la. Excuse me. What AI company were those two brothers from? They have a company. Yeah, they have a company. I don't know what they do in that company. They're consultants, or what are they building? They consult, okay. For zakat, do I minus necessary bills or the yearly amount? You subtract what is due. You subtract what's due against you for that month. Ryan J. All right, we're having a discussion here. That's good. I agree it's interpretive. Just when you combine it with Al-Anbiya 95-96, that a destroyed society won't rise until Gog and Magog have broken loose, and other hadiths of the Prophet ﷺ saying there's a hole in the wall during his time and they will cause a drought in the Sea of Galilee. So if you're accepting that hadith, you are accepting a hadith here, right? Then we must also accept all the hadith. And the other hadiths say that Yajuj and Majuj comes after Prophet Jesus kills the Dajjal. And there is no fitna on the earth regarding religion anymore. It's very clear there's only one true religion. And then he fights in India. Hind. Huge battle. And that's going to be a spiritual war, because Sayyidina Isa coming with all the angels fighting all that paganism and all those jinn, because all of those pagans are jinns. Allah says it very clearly in the Quran, Bal kanu ya'budun al-jinn. All right, let's talk about this. Again, hadith of Sunan Abi Dawood says, إذا سمع أحدكم النداء وفي يده, get you the إناء وعلى يده إناء. Let me give you the exact saying. والإناء على يده فلا يضعه حتى يقضي حاجته. If you hear the call and you are holding in your hand a bowl, do not leave it until you finish your need of it, which is eating it. قال العلماء, there's one of two interpretations. Either the Prophet ﷺ, and this is the far off interpretation, this is the one that I don't think is the stronger of the two. He says here that if you doubt the accuracy of the adhan, then you don't have to listen to it. I don't think that's what he's talking about. The Prophet would have said that, right? But what is more correct, النداء هو أذان بلال الأول. The nida here is Bilal's tahajjud adhan. The adhan of tahajjud, based on the Prophet's sayings, إن بلالا يؤذن بليل فكل واشربوا حتى يؤذن ابن مكتوم. So this idea that if the adhan goes off, I can finish what's in my mouth or my hand or my bowl is a popular mistake based upon that hadith. But if you read the commentary of the hadith, the Prophet is clearly speaking about the first adhan, the adhan of Bilal, because he says Bilal is calling the adhan in the middle of the night still, not Fajr. Bilal does not call the Fajr Adhan. That's why the Prophet even called it Nida. He didn't call it Adhan. Right? So don't make this mistake and spread the word. Now, what is that? Let's take another look. What's the action of the Prophet ﷺ? Zayd ibn Thabit said the Prophet ﷺ, between his suhur ending and the adhan of Fajr was the amount of time it takes to read 50 ayahs of Quran. That's what we call today imsak. It is to be safe and also to pray some tahajjud too. It's to ensure absolutely that nothing stayed in your mouth. You have plenty of time to wash out your mouth, that there's no accidental breaking of the fast. The Prophet ﷺ blessed people who delay suhoor. It is a delay up to that time. You're not blessed for playing with fire and eating right up until the mu'adhin is about to go and call the adhan. That is not blessing. That is in contradiction to the Prophet ﷺ gave us in another teaching. He says, كَالرَّاعِ يَرْعَى حَوْلَ الْحِمَةِ يُوشِكُ أَنْ يَقَعَ فِيهِ. The Prophet ﷺ said, حَلَالُ بَيْنُ وَالْحَرَامُ بَيْنُ وَبَيْنَهُمَا أُمُورٌ مُشْتَبِهَاتٌ. Right? The Prophet said, halal is clear, haram is clear. Between them, it's a barrier of unknowns. If you play near the unknown, you're going to fall into it someday. If every single day you are eating right up until the adhan, one day you're going to be so late you're going to fall into the adhan. That's not allowed. So Imam Malik, he said it's not allowed to eat if you have doubt about the time. Why? Because it's an obligation. So clarify to everyone, and I'm going to probably say this, estimating maybe 20 times. Because I'm not kidding. When I heard last year in the last 10 nights, somebody saying it, a youth telling another youth, he said, not only can you finish what's in your mouth, you can finish your whole plate. Right? Okay, so what if I get a big pizza? It's my ina, right? My friend sent me that hadith. I send him back a picture of me holding a pizza box. Al-ina'u fi yadi, right? So, and I also heard one of those clips of a sheikh actually saying it. He's saying when the adhan is going for Fajr and you have food in your hand, finish it. No, it's not the adhan of Fajr. It's the nida of al-layl. It's the tahajjud adhan. And in fact, the Prophet is actually saying that's your warning to wrap up. And that's about 20, 30 minutes before the adhan. But by the time you wrap up, it'll be like 10 minutes, right? That is the signal to wrap up. Where is that sunnah in our masajid, right? Maybe we won't call an adhan because people will be totally confused. But we should announce it. Hey guys, time to wrap up. Time to wrap up means don't add more. Just finish what you have now. Don't add more, right? Finish it what you have now. If somebody can clip this section and share it with all your friends, do a good deed to clarify this. Why? Because it's a fard ayn. Is it not part of our religion to clarify the fard ayn? We separate between controversial matters, different upon matters. Fard ayn. Every Muslim must fast properly. No excuse. And the other proof of this is that the command to fast from Fajr is in the Quran. The Prophet is not going to contradict the Quran, right? Kaif? How would the Prophet contradict the Quran? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَكُمَ الْخَيْطُ الْأَبْيَضُ مِنَ الْخَيْطِ الْأَسْوَدِ مِنَ الْفَجْرِ. Until you look at the horizon and you see the light come up across the whole horizon. That's Fajr. Once that happens, you cannot eat, which is the adhan of Fajr. So that's the meaning on that. Abdullah says, what about just having suhoor right after Taraweeh and sleep? No, that's not suhoor. That's not suhoor. Suhoor should be delayed towards the end because of its effectiveness. It's effective when you do that. And the Prophet ﷺ said what separates our suhoor with the suhoor separates our fasting from the fasting of other nations is our suhoor. We delay the suhoor. Delay the suhoor means up to there, not up to the mu'adhin is going to the mic and I'm down a shawarma or something. La.
Remember that video of the guy?
Yeah.
Like when he called him that shit, and he was like, "Yeah, shit."
That is hilarious, bro.
And then the gyro fell in my mouth, and the apple.
That was hilarious. That's hilarious. I'm an American convert interested in Maliki fiqh. How do I, as a layman, encourage my peers to follow madhahib? You get educated yourself. You get educated yourself. You go to ArcView immediately right now without thinking. arcview.org. Sign up for Essentials and take class tonight with the young burgeoning faqih Uthman Quraishi. And he will teach you Maliki fiqh tonight, and you will have so many, I'm looking at the app right now, so many classes in Maliki fiqh essentials. Okay, Maliki essentials, I'm looking at the app right now. Ashmawiya cover to cover, 11 videos. Murshid al-Mu'in, Ibn Ashir, 49 videos. Akhdari, 24 videos. And now he's doing Murshid al-Mu'in again. So for that brother Roman, go to arcview.org. Sign up for Essentials and start taking Maliki fiqh right now. You study, and then you'll be able to talk to your friends after that. If I take interest, does that lead kids to disrespect their parents? That's the least of your things. Allah wages war on the moneylenders, both sides, and the witnesses, and the people who signed for it, and the people who facilitated it. So when Allah wages war on somebody, the least that's going to happen to you is your kids disrespect you. That's the least of your concerns. By the way, your kids will probably disrespect you if you're the purest person on the earth. That's the nature of kids. They're teenagers, they'll disrespect you, but you got to teach them a lesson quick. Teach it them quick, they'll never disrespect you again. Okay. Isalu Thawab says 007. When people do something for them on their birthday or death date and they read about them. So it can be at any time. You can do something called Isalu Thawab, which is to do good deeds, such as recite Quran, give charity, and then intend with your heart that the Thawab that you earned be put on the record of so-and-so. That's called Isalu Thawab. And you could do that at any time. And if you choose the death date, that's up to you. There's nothing special about that day. It's going to be more reward or less, but it's just people have done that in the past. They choose the birth date or the death date just because it's convenient. And you naturally will think about it. Let's say if your best friend died on April 11th. April 11th has meaning to you now, right? So February 11th doesn't. So you'll be thinking about him on April 11th. Hence, on that day, since I'm thinking about him, I'll do Isalu Thawab. I'll recite Yasin. May Allah give him the reward. I'll go buy some people dinner. May Allah give him the reward. And that's it. And whether you could do that on April 12th, April 10th, doesn't make a difference. But you happen to be thinking about him on the day he died. That's why people do that. It's nothing specific about that day related to him and his grave. Anything, any day would have worked. But it just seems like it makes sense. Like no one's going to have an anniversary. And let's say we won a great battle and we established an Islamic country. Are we going to celebrate that on a random day or on the day we won the battle? Right? On the day we won the battle. Common sense. So, but it's only common sense. It's not religion. You could really celebrate it or not celebrate it any day you wanted to. Any tips on teething baby that keeps crying? Are there any sunnahs? Yeah, I do have tips. Cold things numbs the nerves, like ice pops, and usually they're healthy too because they're safe. I mean, because it's just going to melt. You can't really choke on a popsicle. So biting on a popsicle. And by the way, consult your doctor because I'm just remember things we used to do, or because it's just about the nerves, right? You know the toothbrush that vibrates. The kids love that, right? Let them bite down on that because it'll shake up the nerves. So that's the logic behind the ice and the toothbrush that shakes and vibrates like that, and let him bite down on that. When he bites down on that, they'll get relief because you're shaking the nerves. You see, I know some medical stuff too. Thoughts on cross madhab marriages? There should be no discussion on that. And you raise the boys on your madhab, and she raises the girls on her madhab, or she becomes in your madhab, whatever. It doesn't make a difference. As you're lucky, you found a girl on Ahl Sunnah who even knows what a madhab is. So no problem with that. Also, no problem with interracial marriages. Malik, when he was told about a Persian and an Arab got married, and that the community was upset, he got very upset. He said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, جَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَعَارَفُوا. We made you nations and tribes to get to know one another. He said that's the proof in the Quran that a Muslim is a kuf to another Muslim. Kuf means like suitable. So that what makes you suitable is your deen, being Muslims. Whether you're Persian, whether you're Andalusi, whether you're Arab, whether you're whatever it is, that's their preference. If he prefers to marry him like that, or her like that, and she prefers him like that, happy with him like that, khalas. Who are we to stop that? So we shouldn't stop those. لِتَعَارَفُوا. At-ta'aruf is many things, including marriage. Can I use a song to market my business? I saw a fatwa allowing that, the use of music in things where music is always used, such as stores, coffee shops, commercials. I've seen fatwa from that from the scholars of Syria, from different scholars, Egypt. They say it's just become a urf, and it doesn't even count as like listening to music. Allah knows best. But they say, yeah, people got it, as long as it's not mushir lil-shahwa. That's what they said. As long as it's not mushir lil-shahwa, meaning it doesn't incite desires. Like music that's racy, that incites desires, where the person's singing or talking like as if they're having some sexual experience or an orgasm. You know that voice that they do? As long as you don't use that. Did Malik believe Medina has superiority over Mecca? The saying of Umar is nobody should say anything is more superior than Medina. That's the exact wording of Umar bin Khattab. And they hold that the place where the Prophet is buried is the most superior place on the earth. The second most superior place on the earth is the Kaaba itself. And of course, they confirm that, or affirm that the reward of praying in Mecca is greater than the reward praying in Medina. But they refused for anyone to say Mecca is superior to Medina because you're insulting the Prophet. That's the city of the Prophet. And Medina became a sacred city because of the Prophet. Mecca was a sacred city because of Ibrahim alayhi salam. What does it mean prophets are alive in their grave? It means in the barzakh, yes. The barzakh. And there's always a connection between a person and where they were buried. And ultimately all this stuff is from the ghaib and the unknown and the unseen. We don't know anything about it. But the barzakh is a far greater world than this world here. Shafi'i said, a person who dies, when a righteous soul dies, imagine a bird in a cage in this world. Then you released it. How much bigger is the world in comparison to the cage? He said that's the likeness of the righteous soul when it dies. It's like a bird being released from a little cage, which is this world, and this body, to a far world you can't measure. Nobody can make a fraction of how much mass, volume or mass or whatever the measurement is, of a cage in comparison to the world. The fraction is like minuscule. So the world of the barzakh, far greater and bigger. It also could be worse, right? It could be worse for people who didn't do good. When kids disrespect you, is that automatic punishment because you showed interest? You mean used interest? You talking about riba? No, it could be, could not be, but Allahu A'lam, to be honest with you, yes, it could be that Allah turns your kids against you as a punishment for riba. It could be far worse things too. And it could be, so a person's got to avoid riba because Allah announces war on those who commit. Now, if you fell into riba once or twice because of a mistake, I just lapsed, make tawbah from that and move on. And continuously make tawbah for that.
You mean riba, or you said you showed interest?
Showed interest in what? Using interest?
I don't think you meant riba. I'm not sure what that means.
What did the four Imams think of awliya? The four Imams held that the ulama of hadith and fiqh and the people who have zuhd in the dunya and worship Allah much and have a sound aqeedah, that they may be awliya Allah, and that it's an obligation to believe in that Allah has awliya. Awliya is those who Allah protects with a special protection. And number one, all believers are awliya at a basic level, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Allah Allahu waliyul ladina amanu. Allah is the protector of awliya. Okay? So that's the general wilayah. And then the more voluntary act of ibadah that a person, the more dhikr you do, the more dua you do, the more you purify your food, the more recitation of Quran, then the greater the protection you get. You protected Allah's law by practicing it, avoided the maharim, protected your heart, then Allah Ta'ala will protect you even more. You take one step towards Allah, Allah takes many steps towards you. You come to Allah walking, He comes to you running. The more you protect the Sharia and protect your heart, the more Allah protects you. Can we give unlawful money back as a donation? No, it won't be a donation, because donation earns reward. It will just be ata. You will give it away. You won't get any reward for it, but you're getting rid of the sins. And there's a location. You can't give it to people for anything pure. You have to use it for something impure. Like what? Like mops, toilet paper, paper towels, dirty and lowly things. That's what you have to do. Are there any mujtahids alive today? Yeah, there are mujtahid in what's called nawazil, in modern matters. There are no mujtahid from scratch. He's a mujtahid for modern matters by taking analogy from his school of thought, from his madhab, rulings already made in his madhab, and applying them to new things that are happening now. I agree that awliya are real, but I do agree they have barakah and that their dua is accepted. But I can't fathom walking on water or flying in the air. Why not? The kuffar fly in the air and they make money out of it. Right? Kuffar did better than, in fact. What would you rather? Own an airline or be able to fly in the air? I'd rather own an airline. Make a lot more money. What money am I going to make flying in the air? Right? People are going to think I'm a magician and they won't be my friends. I'll lose friends. I don't want to fly in the air. I'd rather own an airline. So how is it that we fathom that non-believers figured out a way to fly in the air and make a business out of it, and no person can fly in the air? It's rationally possible. I don't know anyone who's ever done that. I've never read about that. It's usually said fly in the air, but I've never seen any walis described as he flies in the air. But rationally speaking, it's possible if Allah wants someone to. Sayyidina Sulaiman didn't even fly in the air. He rode on a carpet that flew in the air. And that's like, he's a prophet. He's a great king and a prophet, and Allah gave him that. So the idea of awliya, no, we don't have a concept where people, where we believe that the awliya around us are flying in the air. No, we're just saying it's rationally possible. If Allah wanted to happen, it could happen. We look at the narration if anyone said that ever happened. That's it. Or a sahabi that walked on water. You look at the narration. Yes, karamas are possible. Bigger than that has happened. Did they not conquer the Byzantines and the Persians at the same time? Like, even rationally speaking, no military goes on two expeditions at the same time. When the Prophet ﷺ passed away, Abu Bakr and Umar sent military to the Byzantine Empire and the Persian Empire. This makes no even rational sense. They just had iman, right? They had iman. And they faced both empires when they're a small little country poorer than Haiti. And they faced two empires that have had hundreds of years of civilized traditions and a standing army. And the Persian Empire has been on its feet for thousands of years before this. Byzantine Empire, which was the Roman Empire, they just moved over from Rome to Constantinople, which is now Istanbul. That's the Byzantine Empire. How in the world are you, as a ragtag group of Arabs, going to defeat? Are you going to send them to both at the same time? By military standards, no one would ever do that. And in that case, that is a far greater karama than walking on water. That's a far greater miracle that they conquered those two than walking on water. Is it true that fiqh al-akbar is not actually the work of Abu Hanifa? No, that's not true. It is the work of Abu Hanifa. Can I do my qada in any order? The best way to do qada prayer is to pray every salah twice. You owe no nawafil. Don't pray any nawafil. Just pray every salah twice. Last question, because we, mashallah, had a good day today. Was the Prophet affected by sihr? Sihr is no different than an enemy hitting you with a sword. There's no difference. And yes, he was, or getting a virus and getting sick. Can a Prophet get a cold? Can a Prophet get a flu? Sayyidina Ayyub got far worse than that, right? The Prophet Ayyub got so sick, he lost everything. He could not work. He had to spend all the money got spent because he's not working anymore. He lost everything. He got severely sick. So getting a flu, getting hit by a sword, did not a man come to the Prophet ﷺ while he was praying and put the guts of a recently slaughtered sheep on the Prophet while he's making sujood? So he's affected by that. He was attacked. So what is magic? Magic is nothing other than releasing hundreds of shayateen to whisper something in your ear that makes you get confused, that makes you forget something. So likewise, the Prophet was hit so badly he fainted. He was hit so badly that he fell into a hole, tripped, hit his head, and fainted in the Battle of Uhud. Yeah. So this is no different than magic is no different than that, right? So the answer is yes. The Prophet was affected by those things to show us, A, that he's a human being, and that makes people relate to him, and B, to show us what to do if that happens, right? What do we do if this happens? Then Allah revealed to him Surat Al-Falaq wa Nas, which total 11 verses, and there was he was then informed in a dream where the magic was done on him. In other words, magic always has an object. They use an object, and in this case, they had tied knots, and I don't know what they do, spells and stuff. You know, Wiccans know, they can tell you. And by the way, they're failed magicians too. Their magic stinks. Wiccans got nothing on daisies, right? Wiccans. You know Wiccan? Yeah, Wiccan, it's magic, black magic. It's a religion for women, for witches. Yeah, it's a religion of witches here in America. No, they're weak. You guys need to go to India and learn from the real ones, right? Actually don't, right? I mean, we're not worried about that. We have awrad, we have Quran, we have wudu. We don't get affected by that, alhamdulillah. Right? We have Quran, we have, even if they did, if you recite the awrad, that means in the majority of the time you're protected. You know, if Allah wills something to harm you, He can harm you. The Russian mafia can bother your business. People can rob a jewelry store. You're a Muslim, you recite awrad, still bad things could happen, right? If Allah wills it. Same thing. They could have sent shayateen to whisper to us. We may have wudu, salah, Quran, and that stuff stays, inshallah, in the majority of time away from us. And if it does affect us, which is possible, it's affected the Prophet ﷺ. We return back to what the Prophet said, and we recite more Quran and more awrad and have more wudu, keep wudu all the time, and that stuff will go away. Believer is never, he's never completely free from ever being harmed, but the harm is less. Like you have an airbag, you got a seatbelt, I secure my house, I got all sorts of security. Doesn't mean I'll never be harmed, but the harm will be much less. Why do the Shia disagree that magic was performed on the Prophet ﷺ? This is the least of their issues, right? If you die on that, you're actually fine. If you die saying, no, I died that the Prophet and magic was, they usually they say that because they think magic is so bad, they're honoring the Prophet by that belief, right? If you die upon that, you're still within Ahl Sunnah. But if you die upon the other Shi'i beliefs about the Sahaba, okay, that's your problem. That's going to be a far worse problem. Ladies and gentlemen, final question from Layla. She says, what is your recommendation to get the most out of this Ramadan? Recommendation is this over this. This is the problem right here, right? And every time you want to reach for this, have a mushaf next to you and reach for it. I don't buy reading the Quran off the phone. There are too many distractions. I personally don't trust myself. I'm so easily distracted, right? Every time I want to reach for my phone, I'm going to reach for mushaf. And that's how you're going to benefit. Jazakumullahu khairan, folks. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Did Imam an-Nasa'i believe Sayyidina Ali has superiority over all Sahaba? No. He loved Sayyidina Ali so much. He loved him so much that people accused him of that, but he did not have that tashayyu' that he explicitly said he is superior than everyone else. He just loved Ahlul Bayt a lot. And the Malikiyya loved his book. Of all the books of hadith, after the Muwatta, the Malikiyya took special care of Sunan and Nasa'i. And he lived in Egypt. He was a very happy, jovial man, light-skinned, always wore white, had red cheeks, lived in Egypt, lived very well in Egypt. And people always accused him of tashayyu', but he had none of that. He just loved Ahlul Bayt. As we do, as you do, and if you don't, then fix yourself and love who the Prophet loved. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Kalbe şifa